Klein at Pacific Coast Lending.
Hey, John.
I'm doing fine. Look, before we actually get into the interview, I know a lot about you just through reputation. You knock out 8 to 9 million every month consistently. You're considered one of the leaders in the market in terms of origination, and that's beyond dispute. I also know that you're in demand as a speaker. But before we actually get into the interview, most of our listeners just have kind of an innate need to know where people came from and how they got in the business. And so why don't we start with that? Where'd you actually grow up and go to college?
Oh, not a problem. I'd love to hear my history. It's a pretty good story. Actually, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, Valley boy. Went to college at Cal State Northridge, graduated with an accounting degree, and I went to becoming a CPA, basically because I was in my mom's background, and it was the only degree I could come up with that you actually walk away with college with something to start work. As it turns out, big mistake. I don't know about big mistake, but definitely wasn't what I wanted to do. I worked 4 years at a large Big Six accounting firm, and then 2 years at a small accounting firm doing tax returns like 35K1.
Mm-hmm. Did you get a CPA?
I did. Mm-hmm. And I will tell this for the people out there. You know you're in the wrong profession or you don't like your job. When you come in the morning at 9 o'clock, the first thing you say to your coworkers is, "Where are we going for lunch?" And I did that. And I did that for the last year and a half of my career. And I definitely should have got out of it sooner, but I didn't. But it turned out to be a great background. At that point, it was 1992, and I go, okay, well, let's get into real estate. I had a broker's license. I wanted to do major syndications, but if anybody remembers 1992, the market was just in the toilet. Good refis going on for mortgages, but the real estate market.
I bet all those silver straddles and all those 8-to-1s and stuff like that. I had a buddy of mine I went to Georgetown with, and I can't throw his name out there, but it cost them $4 million when they changed the tax laws, as you know, and came knocking on his door.
That's right. Well, all the credits were gone and all that other stuff.
That's right.
And, all the things I wanted to do, I couldn't do, and I said I'll start doing foreclosure real estate. And I found tons of foreclosures, but no equity in any of them. So I got into doing mortgages. A friend of my old college roommate and a good friend of mine, my partner today, got me into. He goes, "Mark, why don't you do some loans for some of your ex-clients?" And I go, "Oh, I'm not doing anything. Why not?" Went out there immediately, originated my first 2 loans, made more money in like 10 hours working than I did in 80 hours as an accountant. And I go, "Wait, this is a pretty good career here." Started calling all my CPA buddies. It's a refinance boom going on. I go, ride the wave. I didn't know if I was going to stay in it long term. But I said, hey, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I'm going to target my market. I want to do jumbo loans. I want to do big loans. And I started calling all my friends and anybody else I knew and telling them what I was doing. And pretty soon my pipeline got filled up of huge, big jumbo loans. And a friend of mine was helping me close them. I really didn't know that much about closing loans and what was good loans and how to structure them. But I was a sharp guy. It wasn't that hard to learn. We learned it. And this thing took off from there.
Well, let me ask you something. What is your average loan amount, by the way?
Today, it's about $450,000.
Okay.
Back then, $200,000.
Yeah, which back then was still a pretty big number.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the conforming was, probably around $151,000.
I think so. And again, I just started calling all my CPA buddies. I even put out a flyer, and I really, without knowing it, I did it. I targeted my market very early on. Mm-hmm. And it was a conscious decision, but not a conscious marketing decision. It's funny. As a CPA, you know nothing about marketing.
Well, let me ask you something that leads me into something by definition here. I'm assuming that you do very little or did very little realtor business that you actually targeted.
Yeah, I didn't target any realtors specifically because I didn't know that many. Mm-hmm. And I targeted, like I said, what I did is I remember I even put out a flyer to all my CPAs and to the whole Cal Society. I think I don't know how many, 300-400 letters went out or more. I forgot how many it was, saying I'll do any of their own loans for a half a point. And just for the opportunity to meet with them, show them my service, so I can actually get opportunity to meet with their clients.
You remind me very much of someone you may know, and that's Charla Ellis, who's the top volume producer for Chase. Maybe David is, but she works out in Salt Lake City. Was a wonderful interview. She does exclusively attorneys, but has an accounting background and is an expert in analyzing self-employed. And has never called on a realtor, could care less if she ever sees a realtor, and she bangs out about $80 million every year. And so kind of tangentially reminds me of you and the ability to go after a specific niche market. And so why don't we talk about that market and how you actually got entree into it? Obviously, having a CPA carried a lot of weight. But for our listeners out there, I think there's a lot of listeners that would like to target people like attorneys and CPAs, really don't know how to go about it. And so what kind of advice can you give somebody, for example, that doesn't have a CPA?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do. Number one is you got to realize having a CPA license is nice and it's good to say. And I definitely am financially astute, where I am an expert in self-employed analysis. I'll never ask a stupid question. I underwrite better than most senior underwriters out there. I'm sure I do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what people have to realize is when you're going to work with the financial crowd, the lawyers, the attorneys, the CPAs, the business owners, the actors, you need to have a competence and a competence about you. And you don't need a CPA to have that. I know people in this industry that say, Mark, I want to raise my loan amount. You go, okay, well, are you ready to go out and tangle with these guys and walk up to them and be honest with them and tell them, there's a problem or look at a situation quickly and help it out. You need to have a confidence about you. People fail, I think, because they don't believe that they're good enough to be in that crowd or whatever the case may be. And I don't think you need to be a CPA to do that. It's just a basic confidence you have to have, and I think you get that as you get more confident.
But I'd like to be a bit of a devil's advocate and challenge you a bit on that, just a little bit. And that is, I perhaps would agree with you in a broad paintbrush stroke sort of way. But I also would think if you're going to go after a CPA crowd, you better have some accounting courses and some basic knowledge on what a P&L and a balance sheet is.
Well, I think so. I think you need that. And I think I'm assuming most loan officers have a clue about some income. I don't think but my point is they don't need to be an expert CPA to know all that. What they do need is to have some tools with them so they can present what they do in an expertise. One of the big things I talk about in today's day and age is scripting and being perceived as a financial planner who specializes in mortgage consulting. That doesn't happen overnight. It happens with having the material. We're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves here, but just to give you an idea of what I do today, and I wish somebody had this years ago for me. I use certain programs like Mortgage Coach, and there's iCal out there, and a couple financial presentation programs out there, software programs, that are phenomenal. And what it does is I walk out to, whether it's a client or whether it's a CPA or a referral source or anybody, and I bring my little, I call it my canned book, Mortgage 101, Mortgage Banking 101 course with me, and I'll go over this 20-page presentation. And it has nothing to do with that particular person. It's a canned presentation, meaning what goes into a loan today. Why do you want why do you want initial cost as opposed to not having initial cost? What's important about ending balance to you? What's important about making the payment? How do you save $15,000 over 5 years? All these different things. And I really educate that person on what we do and how we do it. Well, to do that, you don't need to be a CPA. You just need to be scripted and understand what you're trying to accomplish.
There's an old saying in the business, in sales in general, that and people forget the caveat, the second part of the sentence, and it goes like this: that the best pitch of all that's ever been invented is a canned pitch, but the caveat is that the people who listen to it can't know that it's a canned pitch. As soon as they pick up on it, you're gone.
Well, yeah, and what I'll do is mine is pretty much a canned pitch but it's more key. Like I said, I'll get some client's credit report in front of me, and I know that with a couple things. One of the first things I do on my what I call it my Mortgage Banking 101 course is I'll talk to them about qualifications of a mortgage. And I'll come right out and say this. I'll go, do you realize 60% of all mortgages applied for in America are declined? And that only 40% are actually approved, or whatever the number is today. And I'll tell them why all those things go into it. And then I'll also make reference to the fact at that point, let's say they have a credit ding. I might reference, a lot of things go into qualifying for a mortgage. People who have credit dings might not qualify for 100% of our program, but they'll qualify for some. It just has to go to the right lender and right program. So you kind of can it with that person in mind, whatever you're doing. The other thing I'll do is I'll say, look, let's go through. This is a philosophy I'm trying to teach. Once I'm done with this, we're going to take your situation into the philosophy, and then that's when I spend all my time with them on their particular situation. But it's laying the groundwork for me being an expert, and for me, I think Jim McMahon coined the phrase professionally confusing them, meaning that mean, people think...
Actually, I like that. It's a great metaphor.
I mean, people think they come in here and they say, I want a 30-year fixed, and you go, great, no problem. But have you thought about getting that 5-year fixed, which will save you $15,000 over the next 5 years, and let me run a total cost analysis to show you that. And the presentation is just awesome. The visual is awesome.
You know, another sales thing that you just did when you said that is one of the first rules of sales is you always seek agreement, which you did. You immediately said, sure, we can give you that, and it immediately sets them back at ease. A lot of them think you're going to challenge them, and then you come around through the back door and you save money and take care of the problem.
I tell them right up front, I'll give you whatever you want. I'll also give you my opinion for what I think you should do. But it doesn't matter to me what you do. I just want you to make an informed decision. And that's what my whole premise is, how I operate is. I want the client to make an informed decision. They should know their choices. I mean, one of the number one things that I have a problem with the industry with on a whole, and this is a general thing, some people do this, is how many times you hear people pushing the 80-10-10? They say, what a wonderful program that is. So everybody gets into these 80-10-10 scenarios, right? How many times a year later you get a call from that client, oh, I need a second for home improvement. What do you do? Yeah,
well, they're screwed. Unless they're doing the total refinance.
Well, that's right.
Or the second trust lender is going to subordinate, which he's not.
Yeah, and nobody's going to do a third.
You're right about that.
So what I'll do is with the client, I'll say, look, everybody talks about these 80-10-10s, but we have them. But I want you to understand something. You're foregoing a good opportunity to maybe get a third down the road because who does third? Or you're going to have to do something completely different. So I'll ask them, what is your plans for the property? Do you foresee doing home improvement down the road? And you make a plan. I mean, if those plans change, at least it's an informed plan at that. And that's what I want. Again, it's all about giving out good information and having people make good informed decisions.
Let me ask you something that of course, begs the question right away, is that when you get a referral from, let's say, a CPA, which is wonderful in itself when you get a referral, and we all know the advantages of a referral, how do you handle that? Are you taking the loan, or partially taking the loan app on the phone, or sending out forms? What is the structure of how you're doing it?
We believe in a full-service concept. We are the Norseman's of the business. We try not to do Norseman's price, but generally we're full service of the concept. We have what we call a mini app or a doctor sheet that I borrowed from Penny Dubek. I always give credit where credit's due. It's basically a loan app in a very simplistic doctor format. And what they'll do is they'll fill out everything, including who their CPA is, including their financial planner, their realtors. I actually have to rate them to see if they're happy with them or not. And there's two sides to that.
I understand. Right. That's great.
Well, one is if they're not happy, I can refer them somebody.
Oh, sure.
If they are happy, I can say, God, I'm always looking to meet good people in this industry. Can you set me up with that person?
That's fabulous. I love that idea. That's a real good one.
So, we do that. And once they complete that one form for us, we do everything else. We'll complete their loan app form. We'll complete everything for them. They basically just have to sign everything. And we just do it all. And that's kind of how we do it.
Are you doing stuff face-to-face? What do you prefer to do?
Whatever the client wants. When I get on the phone with a client today, I'll look at them, and I work with a lot of. I'm in Agoura Hills. I don't know how many people out there know it. It's really in between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. I do a lot of Los Angeles business because of the clientele I work with, the CPAs and stuff. So a lot of times it's kind of a haul to get out to my office. I prefer to meet with clients face to face. I will not go to their office. I don't believe you need to do that. I think we're bankers here. We're loaning them millions of dollars over time. They should come see us. But I'll give them 4 options right off the bat. I'll go, look, there's 4 ways we can do business. One way, first I want to meet with you. If you can come out here on a convenient time for both of us, I'd love to see you. 2 is I can send you a package overnight mail, and I'll have FedEx slip, and you just got to get it back to me. And we can set up a mutual time to go over my mortgage banking course 101 and make sure you're comfortable with everything for you and your spouse or significant other. 3 is I'll send them my website. Are you web literate? You can download all the forms I have right off the website. Just fill them out, and I'll send a messenger over to pick them up. 4 is I'll send out my sales manager, who's my top assistant, who's a loan officer, who's probably better than most loan officers today, and I'll send her out there if we really have to go to them. We have all these different ways to work. We don't care. It's really up to them. But I would like to meet with them face-to-face when I can. And at this point, half of my business is probably past business. I do a lot of it over the phone because I've already met these people from the past, and they know who I am.
Well, you have an advantage, and I'm not saying you per se is you in a generic sense getting referrals from a particular class, in this case CPAs. There's always an advantage when you get a referral from a CPA, and the advantage extends to not having to be one of the top 3 that a realtor gave you and have to do your little doodah. to the fact that they're calling you directly. You've been blessed by a CPA. And there's another side benefit, too, and that's the fact that they're not going to be as price sensitive.
No, they're not. And one of the things we haven't spoke about, and maybe we should touch on now, is I got to tell you, I learned my business. My business started in 1994 when I really skyrocketed. Just to give you some idea of what I did. I had a company with like 15 loan agents. It didn't work for me. Loan agents were not very good. They were taking a lot of my time. I'd work 14-hour, 15, 16-hour days. Most of my time I was working on my deals at the end of the day, and everybody else's deals during the day. Well, when the market changed in 94, 95, I got away from that, and I met Todd Duncan. The best thing about Todd Duncan is he's a good trainer, but he put me, I went to these master's programs where I met all these other top producers. And I used to think these people are lying. Well, how do these people do, 10, 15 million a month? How's this guy doing 30 or 40 loans a month and have a life? And if other people are listening to this, I bet they have the same thought I did. I thought they were just lying. So I made a conscientious effort, and I actually went to these guys' offices. And I did what we call site visits. And I went to the top producers around the country. I went about six a year for about 3 years. And I just picked their brains. I saw what they did. They are doing it. They're telling the truth. I'm doing it. I'm telling the truth. And what you do is, you don't recreate the wheel. You see what these guys did. And every office I went to, I got what I thought would be good ideas for my practice. And it worked out wonderful. I mean, I got to tell you, my whole office is a recreation of all the other top producers around the country.
Well, that's it. One of the things in sales they tell you is that above all you have to be true to yourself, and you try and pick the best pieces from other people, see if it works. But if it doesn't work for you, and this is where a lot of people go wrong, you have to be intelligent enough to discard it.
Well, that's it. And some things, again, I used to go see a lot of consumer direct people, and consumer direct wasn't me. But I talked to Jim McMahon, and Jim McMahon, I remember, and tell me how many loan officers listening to this. This sounds like you. You get a call at 5:00 at night, clients thinking about buying a house, a smaller transaction for your thing, but he said, I need a loan, I need a close loan, and you're running in your car and 10:00 at night, and you're taking loan apps at 10:00 at night. You're getting done at 12:00 at night. Your wife's still wondering where the heck are you. You take this loan app, you get it back to your office, and a week later you find out they're shopping with 3 other people. I mean, that's how it was for me and a lot of other loan officers I know. What I found out is you got to believe in your business, and you got to believe in the business that you do is the way you want to do it. And there's enough people to do it your way. You don't have to worry about the others. So when I came to that conclusion that I don't have to run out at every time I get a phone call, and I believe that these people should come see me and they'll do business my way, it was amazing how often people came to see me. I mean, I would sit here, and again, I learned from other people. I would sit here and say, people call me and I say, look, I have an opening 3 o'clock Monday, 10 o'clock Tuesday, or 5 o'clock Wednesday. What time would you like?
Which is another classic sales technique. You give them a couple choices, and that's it. What are the best 3? And
what happens is right away you find out if somebody's shopping you. You find out if they're serious. If they're going to come see you in your office, they're going to know it. I also script my other people that refer me, whether it's a realtor or CPA or whoever, saying they should go see me if they could. So they come in my office, they can see my technology, they meet my team.
That's a great idea. I like that one too.
So I mean, all those things go a lot. But again, I'm going to give credit to other people. I learned when I was a loan agent on my own, doing my whatever deals I was doing, I was driving myself crazy. Well, my life has changed. I mean, I did 120 million or whatever, some unbelievably costly number, which I never thought I'd ever do in 1998. Did almost 100 million in 99, and you know what? I averaged working 25, 30 hours a week, which is unbelievable. But that all happened. It didn't happen overnight. I mean, that went from me working 90 hours a week to me working like 25, 30, because I believed it. I built systems in place. I built a team up behind me, and I did the business the way I wanted to do the business.
When you say that you have a system and systems in place, from a personnel standpoint, I think I can probably guess that you have 1 or 2 assistants to help you out. But from an internal structural aspect, do you work with something like ACT, for example, or do you create a database?
Yeah, we have we actually embrace technology. We've been doing it from day one. We actually have ACT. It's totally customized. It has 1 million different fields in it. It does all kinds of things for us. Where my whole staff gets access to my calendar. I'm a big believer in time blocking, so things are way time blocked in advance.
Do you do? I just want to stop you there on time blocking. What do you do specifically on your time blocking?
Well, it changes, but I recently I'll block in proactive calls, set up meetings, realtor CPA meetings, past client meetings, whatever. I'll set up my workout schedule in there, so I make sure I go to the gym whenever I want to go to. I'll set my golf time in there. I'll set up my time for loan apps in there. I'll set up my time for G&A problems in there. I'll set up a bunch of free time for just miscellaneous things that come up. I'll set up a marketing meeting every 2 weeks. All these things are predetermined and pre-blocked.
And that's what gives you some of the quality aspects of your life.
Oh, huge difference. I mean, when again, let's talk about what happened to me years ago. I driving in the office, I say, I'm going to work on my business, right? I'm going to put a system in place to, whatever, take a referral call or maybe a marketing system. I have a marketing calendar that's always booked 3 to 6 months in advance when I send out. But I said, I'm going to go and work on my business, right? Well, you're driving in the office, you check your messages, Joe Smith calls you, Mark, this deal's blown up in escrow, the client wants, is having a problem with the appraisal, whatever. Well, all of a sudden now what happens? You get on the phone with everybody and you're not taking your day is taking you. And pretty soon it's new. And all the things you planned on doing, you've not done, and now you have 10 messages sitting there, you have to return your call, and you never had a chance to work on your business. Those things just don't happen to us anymore.
Yeah, I think that resonates with listeners out there, because I think there's a lot of loan officers, really even at the higher levels, that it's kind of a form of, and I'm sure you've seen a form of insanity almost, where someone's doing $25 million and they're working 14, 16-hour days, and they just don't know what the heck's going on.
That's right. Well, and a lot of that has to do with this again. You never taken the time to set up the system so you don't have to do everything. And I'm a firm believer, and I don't know if you know who Dan Sullivan is. He's a big insurance trainer.
No, actually, I don't.
Wonderful trainer. Anyway, outside the industry, has nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
But a great insurance trainer. Well, his big thing is what he tells them, what is your unique ability? And if you can figure out what you're the best at, you can do that all day long. You can surround yourself with people doing what they're the best at, and they can do that all day long. How great would your life be? And that's what we strive to do around here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at meeting people. I'm really good at structuring deals. I'm really good at looking at vision and big picture. So you know what? That's all I do all day long at this point in my career. Granted, back then I did everything. And it's a time process, and you take one little steps to get to where you need to go. But if you have that vision, if you're just a good marketer, and you think you just want to schmooze all day, or you think you want to structure deals all day, or you think you want to do whatever you want to do all day, what's the highest payoff activity, like it, you need to figure out systems that you can do that all day long. And you'll be very profitable.
Mm-hmm. When in the amount of business that you do, if we took it a pie and the pie equals 100, what % of your business now is coming from referrals?
Oh, I'm 100% referral based now. When you say referral,
well, actually, I'll split a hair on that. Not the ones, for example, that are coming directly now from CPAs. I'm talking about ones that you have done loans on or now in your database.
From past clients,
mm-hmm.
whatever. I'm probably getting around either their loans or their friend loans, somewhere about 35 to 40%.
Right.
I'm still getting somewhere about 35 to 40% of financial people referring me business. And when I say financial people, that's business managers, CPAs, that financial consultants, financial planners, and insurance people. It might be attorneys, business people, just in general. And I get a lot of referrals. I get about 35, 40% from that group. I'm getting about another 15 or 20% from realtors. I do have a core base of maybe 8 realtors I work with, people over time. And it's funny, I actually work with the realtors not because of them giving me business, which has been great. I actually have a tendency to refer out a ton of business because I like to control the transaction. And I know if I get my realtors involved, I know business-like realtors that are the best in the area, these transactions just go smoother. So I'm always looking to refer out business, which brings me to another point. One of the best things I did to grow my business, and they always say, if you come and be an advocate, or to get advocates, you need to be an advocate. That's a Joe Stumpf thing, but it's very true.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, and this is something I did naturally when I got in business in '92. I always tried to help other people. I'm an advocate. I'm always looking to get my people I know involved with my clients, with other people, meeting setups that might be good relationships for them. I'm very much an advocate of all the people I work with, and if I can help their businesses, and it could be just helping them with a computer issue or whatever, it doesn't matter. If I can help their businesses, whether it's referring them clients or general G&A help, I do that. And I'm a believer in having a bunch of advocates.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? You said something just before you went into that I found rather profound. It reminds me of something David Jaffe said, that when he took his ACT, and he has a very sophisticated ACT program like you do, he said, he had never taken the time to see really where his business is coming from and how it comes to him. And so he started putting down whether it was a phone call, whatever. If it came from a realtor, he had a separate field that he put realtor. It came from the CPA. And he said, he always thought that he got most of his business from realtors. When he really analyzed it, he found that not only was he not getting as much business as he thought from realtors, it was taking 4 times the amount of effort to do a deal with a realtor as opposed to a direct referral. And so he started to switch out of doing realtors.
Well, you got to spend your time where your bread's buttered. I mean, again, it goes back to you keep your top 20 or top 30 list around. Who are your best 30 or 20 or 30 advocates, and you should spend a significant amount of time on them, whoever they may be. It could be realtors, or it could be CPAs, or it could be clients. It could be anybody. Again, I think that is a great exercise. I did that 2 years ago, and to my amazement, I looked down. I thought all these people were giving me all these business. What happened was I had a list of like 40 people that each referred me so many deals, but nobody on the list referred me more than 7 deals. And I was kind of amazed when I saw my own list. I actually went through it, and I go, wow, this is a kind of eye-opening experience where I thought these people were actually giving me tons of business, and it seemed that way, and they really weren't. And, I started really concentrating on my top 20 and top 30.
Mm-hmm. But, I think the point that you're making, if I can extract a little bit from it and take it back to its genesis, and that is you can't even get to that stage if you don't have a system in place.
No. Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to, it goes back to working on your business, and where people, I think, fail in our business, or the reason why they never get to another level, is they don't time block a Friday or 4 hours a week to work on their business, and that's on or in your business. And in your business is taking loan apps, working on marketing, sending out a mailer, solving a problem. Working on your business means coming up with a system. Okay, what am I going to market for the next 6 months? How am I going to get this done? How am I going to have a referral call where, something as this simple, where a referral call comes in, I don't need to send out the loan package. What we did here is, I was spending a gobs amount of time just writing notes of what to send out with loan packages and stuff. Well, we came up with a checklist. Now I just check off what to send out to a client, or how to use Messenger, deliver it, whatever, and I just hand it put it on my assistant's desk. It's their job to get it back, and I never see it again. Well, that's a system, and if you don't take the time to prepare that checklist and really think it through, and who's going to follow up, and what is the system to do, well, it's a vicious circle. You never have time to do anything.
There's kind of an analogy there. It's a shame I talked about in another interview, but it's germane, and that's the old Everett Dirksen story, where he said a billion here, a billion there, and before you know it, you're talking about real money. Tangential to that, you save a little time here on a procedure, you save a little time there, and before you know it, you're creating some quality of life for yourself and still doing the same business. Yeah,
again, the thing I'm most proudest about is, over the last couple of years, doing the amount of business I've been able to do, is I've been able to really free up a lot of time. I became an avid golfer. I golf a lot. My handicap's way down. And I'm more proud of that than probably anything else I've done, because it's more of a quality of life issue.
Mm-hmm. What is your handicap?
Well, I'm about down to a 12, and I can probably play a lot better than that.
That's respectable.
So, I started when I was at 28. And I play on a very difficult course.
Yeah, I get very frustrated. My father, who was a wonderful human being, started me off at 11, and he was a pretty good golfer, and he would take me out, and I had not developed physically properly, and they say really you shouldn't start till about 13, and so one day when I was in 12 and a half, whatever, I proudly announced that I would never play golf again, and it's really kind of a shame.
Well, again, it's being exposed to things at a young age without being too much pressure on them, too.
Right.
I have 2 little boys. My job as a father at this point, besides just guiding them, is exposing them. Not putting a lot of pressure on them, but let them see what they like. Just let them do it.
Well, let me ask you specifically, obviously you use ACT. What are some of the specific things you do, or your staff does, and if they do, let me know who does it, as far as keeping in touch with your client base? I'm sure you have a newsletter.
Well, you'd be surprised what we do. It's actually transformed over the last couple of years. We used to send out once a month a newsletter, a story, a quote, a million different things, and we used to mail to my CPAs and business people twice a month, my realtors I was working with a couple times a month, my clients once a month, and we'd have we're using Bidders Group and Duncan and Mortgage Times, Howard Snyder. We had all these things going on, and we were spending a fortune on this stuff. And then something kind of hit us. I mean, as we're going through some different seminars, is I think what you're trying to get across to these people is your competence and competent, and also keeping your name in front of them. And we recently, over the last 4 or 5 months, have come into doing this. We do postcards. We do what we call an evidence of success, which we got from Just Thumb, where we just send out a story about a family, a difficult loan that we got done and how it affected that family. We'll do what we call a letter from the heart, which is just tells them more about me personally, something about my kids maybe, or it could be about a trip to Paris I just did. Let them know who I am. We'll also do, I do some bigger evidence of successes, or what I call my jumbo series to my business people, with just real difficult loans and what some of the accomplishments we made. And we're just sending that out like probably three times a month. And it's postcards, very inexpensive. We produce them here. We've got away from all the other stuff, and I got to tell you, I think it's working. Which is really uniquely. I mean, we were doing beautiful newsletters, and all kinds of different stuff. And our mailing and postage and printing were just unbelievable. And what we're doing now is very simple, but yet we're telling you our story about our competence and how our trustworthiness, and people believe when we are.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the ultimate goal is for that person to, above all, remember your name when the time comes to either refer somebody or to call back themselves, and as you say, to remind them of your competence. So, whatever's going to work, and if you can come up with a way that's cost-effective and still does the same job, that's great. I did an interview with somebody recently where they did a bit of what you're doing, took it a little bit further in to where they're just doing stuff now 4 times a year. And they put a newsletter out, about a 4-page, and they have found that they're pretty much getting the same amount of business 4 times a year.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think, the other thing I did, and we didn't talk about this too much, is I came up with a little logo for myself. I have a little cartoon of me on a golf cart with my cellular phone in my ear and a golf club over one ear. And it's just really cute, real funny. And it says your personal lender for life, or best loans, like best jumbo loans bar none. It's just like little cutesy things. And I put that on all my marketing material, and I've been doing that for years. So it kind of gives me a brand out there, and people know when they get them.
Is it on your web page?
Good question. I don't know. I don't think it is. It probably should be. But everything we send out has that for the most part. It's fun. It's not a professional type thing. And people know me from that. When they get another postcard from me, they see it right away. They know who I am. And I do think it's so important, because real estate's a timing thing. You never know when people need money for refi. You never know when people are in a funding transaction. You never know who they're going to be talking to. The other thing we're doing right now, too, is we got hit really hard on one of the things that hit me really hard last year was I went back and looked at my list of advocates and people that referred me business. Well, I came up with 55 business advocates in a heartbeat. CPAs, realtors, or just business people that refer me on a regular basis. It was very difficult for me to come up with any client advocates. And that was a real eye-opening experience. I do all these wonderful things for my clients, and yet I don't, they're giving me their loans because they're always calling me back to do their loans, but I'm not getting tons of referrals from them. So that was an eye-opening experience for me. And I said, you know what? Obviously, I'm not doing something right on getting referrals from my clients. I'm doing a good enough job, and I'm letting them know good enough that they always come back to me, but yet they're not going out of their way to refer me to their friends and family in many cases. So what we did is we stepped up our marketing, and on our postcards, we asked them, we let them know how important their referrals are to us. Their referrals are a lifeblood to us, with all different things we're doing. And we started stepping that up, and that seems to be paying off. We're getting definitely more referrals from clients this year.
Also, it's kind of interesting, too. It enables you to focus back again and take care of the people who do give you the business.
Exactly.
Like CPAs. And once again, I have to come back to the genesis of that, and that is having information so you can at least tell that. A couple of times in our interview here, 3 times that I can specifically remember, you've used the word, and I was surprised to find out. You said that 3 different times with 3 different examples, and you could have only done that if you had the information.
Yeah, exactly. And we become, and I started looking at that harder, and that's what our ACT database is about, and that's what our closing reports are about. We keep detailed analysis of our closes and who referred it to us. And you need to look at that. And again, that's working on your business. What is the business plan, and what are we trying to accomplish here? The other thing, I don't know how much more time we have, so
we have a little bit, maybe 5-6 minutes.
I wanted to touch on something else that I think is real important is we let our clients know that our job starts after the loan closes. And what we do is we use what we call Rate Watch, which is a mortgage coach. That's another software we talked about a little bit.
A lot of people use that.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, we use Rate Watch on that, and what we'll do is we'll send them an annual update once a year, a mortgage checkup. Just so you know, even if rates are really out of whack and we know their loan's better, we'll send to them saying, look, we know your loan is a good loan. However, if you just want to know what's going on in the market, you think about buying, you think about refinancing, you cash out, whatever, here's just kind of where the rates are, and this is how your loan looks in comparison to them. And we let them know that we're here to really consult and really manage their mortgage needs. And that's what, big, as a company, that's what we're trying to do. My database is full of loans that are coming due after a 3-year fixed period, 5-year fixed period, prepayment penalties coming up. We have all those things calendared 3 to 5 years out.
That's great. Let me ask you, do you use some other things? Do you use Epo Effect?
We do. We have used Epo Effect in the past. That's the voice broadcasting system. We've done that maybe twice a year, just with like a nice greeting or something. I have not been very proactive in that, and I don't know why, really. I think it's a great idea. It's probably something we need to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are top producers at your level that do use it, and they're very happy with it. You also mentioned a mortgage coach. Do you like that?
I love the program. I know the owner, Dave Savage, really well. He got me involved in beta testing it and doing a lot of things on it. I was one of the first guys to jump on it, use it. All our loan alternatives are offered to our clients on that.
How about explain for the listeners out there that don't know what that is and the value added of it?
Well, for example, I mean, here's the easiest way to make it explain to me. If somebody says you're being offered a loan at 8%, 2 points, loan fees are this, that's great. What can you do for me? Well, if I could, or somebody might be saying it's 8.25% at no points. I could throw this on Mortgage Coach and say, okay, well let's look at this loan on a 5-year fixed or something else and get 7.75 at 2 points with whatever loan fees are, and let's run this over 5 years. Let me give you, your loan is costing you for argument's sake, I'm talking about the top of my head. Your loan's going to cost you $113,000 for the next 5 years. That's the interest, points, fees. Well, and if you get my loan's only going to cost you $100,000 with the interest, points, and fees. Well, I'm quantifying those differences for them. And that's a huge visual presentation for somebody. It's a lot better than saying my loan's $20 cheaper a month.
Yeah, it's very much like in the commercial market, which I'm, using an internal rate of return, where you're taking something back and factoring your points into discounted cash flows and coming up with an overall internal rate of return.
Exactly. And on Mortgage Coach, they also have that. Now, they have a debt analysis portion. If you have somebody paying off a bunch of debt, that you can put on, okay, here's your monthly payments. Like I did it for one client where he was actually saving $1,300 a month in payments.
Wow.
And then I showed him, why don't we put $650 back into the mortgage, and as part of the program, as part of the visual, it shows if you put $650 a month back in the mortgage over 7 years, it was like $70,000 of equity reduction. Take that other $650 and put it in some asset-bearing account at like 10%, which was like $80,000. And all of a sudden they see the visual of that, and that's a lot different than just spouting it out.
Right.
Give it to them to lead. It all goes back to presentation software, which is life insurance guys are notorious for this. I mean, they've been the best salesmen I ever met in my life, and they've been doing presentation software forever.
If someone wanted to listen to this and wanted to get hold of Dave Savage, I think he's out of Texas, right?
He's in California.
Okay. How would they get hold of him?
Let me look it up. Look at my app.
We'll see how good you are.
Let's see. It's the Mortgage Coach. It's mortgagecoach.com. So you call him. It's 800-951-2696. Extension 22 is for Bill Meyer. He's running it right now. And again, it's you can just look up on the website. It's mortgagecoach.com.
I like to do that. I just when I was talking to Dave Jaffe, he had someone who he said, expensive but very, very good in taking his ACT program and really expanding it out. And he was kind enough to give the name of the woman and her phone number. And I think there's some value in here in getting people that have systems that work and make your life easy. They not only make money for you, that goes without saying. They give you quality of life.
Well, and also, just so you know, if anybody goes on the website, Dave's offering my presentation I put together that's based on Gordon Schutz and these other scripts for sale for like $100. You get all the scripts I use, just how I deal with it, just like we do, and I got to tell you,
that's great.
I don't care if the $100 to me doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, you know, people who know more do that.
I'll just have them wire it to me then.
There you go.
And you'll feel better too.
There you go. But what's really good about it is the scripting. I got to tell you, I met Jim McMahon. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh yeah, I've talked to Jim.
Jim's a wonderful man.
Mm-hmm.
Great. He was my idol. He was the guy I met in Columbia. I met him in 1984, and I said, Jim, how do you do business? And every year I met him and talked to him, and he is just the ultimate. He calls them eloquent slams, and he just has these scripting down so well. And as he says, the Dallas Cowboys, they don't just go out there and run the Super Bowl. They practice, 6 months a year, 8 hours a day. Well, how often do we practice our profession as lenders? How often do we practice a script when a client says when they want a 30-year fix? You don't. I learned that. I'm about as scripted as they come. You can ask me just about any loan question off the top of my head, and I will give you an intelligent answer because I practiced them and I've done them for you.
Let's discuss sex in the loan industry.
What do you want to discuss?
No, I'm just...
Sex in the loan is there's not enough.
Well, that's the answer I was looking for. Well, look, I think on that, we're running out of tape, actually. I think on that real high point, I think we'll kind of end the interview. I want to thank you very much for taking your time to talk to our listeners out there. And the reason that I think your interview was so wonderful is that it's the specificity of it. You obviously, you have a plan. It's a very structured plan. You follow your plan. And the bottom line is you've not only, knocking out $100 million a year, you're doing it and preserving and creating for yourself and your family quality of life. And that's kind of what it's all about. Another aspect that you didn't necessarily talk about but seems to come through too, and I know with others, I was talking to Pete Cameron, who is a regional manager for BF Saul and does about $60 million while running about 21 loan officers, is the fact that he wants his business to be fun and to enjoy his business, and I think this is a prime ingredient in making the business fun, and I think that there's value in that.
Well, and again, I go back to what I did, and I hated what I did as a CPA. Don't get me wrong, it was a great background, but I didn't enjoy the job. And when you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's hard to be good at it. You got to enjoy what you're doing to be good at it.
Right, exactly. So. Exactly. Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Mark, and we'll keep in touch.
That sounds great.
Okay.